Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this week's edition of Benchmark, in our first installment, we have an overview of the global economy, in particular, the effects of oil price hikes. Then in our feature segment, we turn the spotlight on Johan Vijayasinghe, Head of Leisure and Aviation of Haleys, for his take on the state of the global aviation industry. And we wrap up this edition by giving you a sneak peek at Media Services' latest publications. That's the lineup for Benchmark this week. Hello and welcome to Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. We start off our show this week with a look at the global economy, which many experts feel will suffer from persistent oil price hikes. Indeed, natural resources have hit the headlines again a year and a half after what was thought to be the start of a global recovery. The spot price of a barrel of crude oil crossed the $100 mark early this year, and the price of many other commodities has shot past their pre-crisis peaks. An IMF report notes that given the expected rapid growth in oil demand in emerging market economies and a downshift in the trend growth of oil supply, a return to abundance is unlikely in the near term. The report states that oil is the most important source of primary energy in the world. It accounts for about a third of total energy supply, followed by coal and natural gas, which account for 28% and 23% respectively. The focus on renewable sources of energy is intense across the globe at the moment, but they still account for only a small fraction of primary energy supply, according to the IMF report. As oil prices rise, the transfer of wealth from oil importers to exporters would increase capital flows and widen current account imbalances. But the gradual and moderate increases in oil scarcity may not present a major constraint on global growth in the medium to long term. Meanwhile, sudden surges in oil prices could trigger large global output losses, redistribution and sectoral shifts. And in the longer term, the dearth in supply and resulting high prices could lead to a reduction in GDP levels among oil importers. In the wake of rising prices, oil exporters could experience sustained increases in income and wealth. As a result, their domestic demand would accelerate ahead of GDP, with higher spending leading to upward domestic price pressure and domestic currency appreciation. The IMF report observes that the growing importance of emerging market economies appears to have reduced world oil demand price elasticity. Per capita oil consumption in the United States and other OECD economies has been broadly flat since the early 1980s, while China has experienced rapid increments. As a result, China's share of global oil consumption rose from 6% in 2000 to close at 11% in 2010. But its oil consumption is still only half as large as that of the United States. Meanwhile, global food prices are again threatening to push millions of people in developing Asia into extreme poverty. A report from the ADB warns that fast and persistent increases in the cost of many Asian food staples since the middle of last year, coupled with oil price highs, are a serious setback for the region. The study finds that a 10% rise in domestic food prices in developing Asia could push an additional 64 million people into extreme poverty. And the rate of domestic food inflation in many regional economies in Asia is now averaging 10%. Moving on to travel news, it would seem that India and China are on their way to becoming the world's new travel tigers. Citing experts, Travel Newsgram reports that with India planning to build some 115 new airports and unprecedented urbanization about to shake up China, a fresh breed of tourists would soon dominate the business of travel. The shortage of skilled workers worldwide would also be a huge opportunity for Indians and Chinese struck with wanderlust. Technology will be a key feature of this new brigade, with analysts predicting that social media combined with search engines will drive the travel and tourism industry. Staying with travel news, more than 1,100 international and domestic tour operators from 70 countries shopped at the largest travel industry trade show in North America, the U.S. Travel Association's International Powwow. This year's powwow was held in San Francisco with expectations that it will generate some $350 million tourism dollars for the city in the short term alone. More than 400 international and local journalists also attended the gathering, which featured 3,500 exhibitors. We're going now for a commercial break, and when we come back, we speak to Johan Vijay Singha about the state of the global aviation industry. Don't miss it.